The jungle was quiet that night, more quiet than usual. Rex sat alone in his wooden hut. Deep in the middle of nowhere, he was a former soldier. Tired of people, tired of noise. He wanted peace, and for 1 year, he had lived alone, hunting, fishing, and surviving. But tonight, something felt wrong. The birds stopped singing. The insects fell silent. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. Then he saw it. A bright blue light flashed across the sky. It wasn't a star, and it wasn't a plane. It moved too fast, spinning, smoking. Burning through the clouds, Rex stood up quickly. Eyes wide, the object crashed into the jungle, not far from his hut. A loud explosion followed, shaking the trees and sending animals running. Rex grabbed his old rifle and flashlight. He didn't know why, but something inside him told him to go. He followed the smoke, moving fast but quiet. The jungle was thick, and the air smelled like metal and fire. As he got closer, he saw strange pieces of metal on the ground. They didn't look like any aircraft he had ever seen. Then he saw it, the crash site. It was a ship, but not from Earth. It was shaped like a claw with dark silver skin and glowing lines that pulsed like veins. Rex stepped closer, his heart beating hard in his chest. He raised his rifle slowly, just in case. Suddenly, a low growl came from behind him. He turned fast but saw nothing. Just trees, leaves, and shadows. He took another step toward the ship. Then everything went black. Rex woke up on the ground dizzy. His rifle was gone. His flashlight was broken, and someone or something was on top of him. His arms were pinned to the dirt. He looked up and froze. It was a girl, but not human. Her skin was bronze with strange glowing marks. Her eyes were golden and wild, like a tiger. She had sharp teeth, long black hair, and ears shaped like a cat's. Her body was strong, covered in armor that looked alive. She stared into his eyes without blinking. Rex tried to speak, but before he could say a word, she leaned down and licked his neck. Slowly, the touch was strange, cold, and warm at the same time. Then she whispered in a language he didn't understand. Her voice was soft, but filled with power. Rex didn't know what she said, but it felt like a warning, or maybe a greeting. She stood up suddenly and pulled him to his feet with one hand. She looked around, sniffing the air like an animal. Then she turned to him again and pointed to the crash site. Her face was serious, almost angry. Rex raised his hand slowly, showing he meant no harm. But he had so many questions. Who are you? He asked. What are you? She didn't answer. Instead, she walked toward the crashed ship. Limping slightly, Rex followed, unsure what else to do. Inside the ship, it was dark, filled with smoke and flickering lights. Alien symbols glowed on the walls, moving like water. Rex saw a strange weapon on the floor, part metal, part muscle. He reached out, but before he could touch it, the girl growled and pulled him back. She pointed to a broken part of the ship and tapped her chest. Then she pointed to him. Rex shook his head. I don't understand, she frowned, then waved her hand in the air. Glowing symbols appeared between them, floating like holograms. He saw an image. It was him, standing in a field with the sky burning above him. Then her face appeared next to his, and behind them, something large, dark, and terrifying. It was hunting them. Whatever she was running from, it was still out there. Rex felt his stomach twist. Suddenly, a loud rustle came from the trees outside. The alien girl grabbed the strange weapon and aimed it at the door. Rex ducked behind a wall, heart pounding. Something was coming, and it wasn't friendly. The girl looked back at him, eyes glowing bright. She didn't speak, but her meaning was clear. They were no longer strangers now. They had to survive together, whether he liked it or not. Asterisk. The night was heavy. Thick clouds covered the stars. Inside the broken alien ship, glowing blue light wrapped around the walls, like veins under skin. Rex sat quietly near the edge of the wreck, watching her, this strange girl with tiger eyes. She moved with the grace of a wild predator, but her steps were slower now, weaker. She was hurt. Her leg bled a black liquid that steamed when it touched the ground, but she didn't complain. She didn't speak. She just watched him, the way a lion watches something it doesn't understand. Rek finally stood, walking toward her slowly, hands open. "I'm not your enemy," he said. "I want to help." She tilted her head, confused but not angry. Then without warning, she reached out and touched his chest with 2 fingers. A glowing light passed from her skin into his body. His eyes widened. Suddenly, the room melted away. He stood in an empty space, dark, silent, endless. Then images came, fast and bright, like flashes in a storm. He saw her planet, a wild, green world filled with giant trees and tall, cat-like warriors. He saw a throne made of crystal, and a queen with golden stripes on her skin. Then fire, destruction, a shadow in the sky that swallowed her home. She had escaped, but not alone. Something followed her. Something that didn't care who it destroyed. Rek gasped and stumbled backward, falling out of the vision. The alien girl knelt down beside him, breathing hard. Her voice was low now, almost like a whisper. She spoke slowly, her accent thick, but her words were clear enough to understand. "You carry signal," she said, pointing to his chest. "What signal?" Rek asked, confused. She pointed again, this time to her own body, to her strange armor, to the air, then back to him. "You answer," she said. "Code. Inside you." Rek shook his head. "I'm just a man." But she stepped closer, eyes glowing again. "Not just man," she said. "You called us." Then she opened her hand, and a small cube floated above her palm. It showed an image of Rek's face, exactly like him, but older, with armor and glowing eyes. "Future," she said. "Or past." Before he could say anything more, the ship groaned loudly, shaking from the outside. Something was out there, moving in the trees again. The alien girl pushed him back and drew her weapon. It opened like a living thing, part bone, part metal, glowing like it had a heartbeat. Rek reached for something to defend himself, but the girl stopped him. She looked into his eyes and said only 2 words, "Stay close." They moved together, silently through the trees. The jungle was no longer quiet. Strange whispers floated in the air, clicking, hissing sounds that didn't belong to Earth. Something watched them from the dark, something that hated the light. Then Rek heard it above them, in the trees, claws on bark, moving fast, circling. The girl raised her weapon, but it was too late. A blur dropped from the branches, huge, dark, almost invisible. Rek barely saw its shape, only the shimmer where light bent around it. It slammed into them, throwing Rek into a tree and the girl to the ground. He struggled to breathe, his ears ringing. Then he saw her, pinned under the creature, fighting hard but losing. The creature hissed a sound that burned the air and raised a blade over her chest. Rek didn't think. He ran, grabbed a broken metal rod, and stabbed the creature in the side. It roared and swung at him. The alien girl jumped on its back and drove her weapon through its head. The creature collapsed, twitching. Black smoke rose from its body. The jungle was silent again. Rek sat beside her, breathing hard, blood on his hands. The alien girl looked at him, not with wild eyes now, but something else, respect, maybe, or trust. "You fight," she said. Rek nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said. "I fight." She smiled for the first time. Just a little. Then her eyes went dark and she collapsed in his arms. Rek sat still, holding Zai in his arms. Her body was cold but breathing, her skin glowing faintly under the moonlight. He looked at her face, so strange, so wild, and yet somehow familiar. Suddenly, the jungle whispered again, not with wind, not with animals, but with something alive, something watching, waiting, hunting. Rek heard the sound before he saw anything. Soft clicks, like claws tapping on wood. He stood up slowly, eyes scanning the trees. "Zai," he whispered, shaking her gently. "Wake up, we need to move." She opened her eyes halfway, then tried to stand, but her body failed her. She looked at him, angry with herself. Then she reached into her belt and pulled out a glowing sphere. She tossed it at his feet. It opened with a quiet hiss. A map appeared in the air, showing their location. A red line glowed through the trees, leading to a cave. She pointed to it weakly. Safe. For now, she said. Rek nodded, grabbed her carefully, and began to run. The forest around him moved like it was breathing. Branches curled, leaves shifted, shadows bent the wrong way. Behind him, something fast followed, unseen but always near. He didn't stop, not even when thorns tore his arms, or his legs burned from running. Zia leaned against his shoulder, whispering in her language, the words soft and broken. Then, a flash of motion above. The hunter was here. Rek ducked just in time as a sharp claw missed his head by inches. He rolled into a muddy hill and slipped down toward the cave entrance. The creature roared behind him, angry, but it didn't follow. The cave's mouth glowed faintly with alien symbol. Zhi's tech, it couldn't enter. He dragged her inside and dropped to his knees, breathing like a man who just escaped death. She sat up slowly, blood on her lips. Too close, she said. What was that thing? Rek asked. Why is it chasing you? She looked at him with tired eyes, then reached for her weapon. It pulsed like a heartbeat, warm and alive. Not just chase me, she said. It hunts all signal carriers. Rek frowned. You mean me too? Zai nodded. That thing, she whispered, is not alive. Rek stared at her, confused. She explained slowly, using both words and symbols. It was built long ago, by a forgotten species. It doesn't eat. It doesn't sleep. It just hunts anything that carries a signal like hers. Something inside Rick, something buried in his DNA, is attracting it. You woke it, she said. When I touched you, it found us. Rek felt cold all over. He thought he was just a man, a loner in the woods. But now something beyond Earth wanted him dead, and the only reason he was still alive was her. Zai leaned back against the cave wall and tapped her chest. Armor. A small blue crystal slid out and floated between them. It showed an image of Rek as a child, standing in a lab, doctors around him, machines scanning his blood. He shook his head, shocked. I don't remember this. You were changed, Zai said. Long ago. Before memory. Rek stood slowly, staring into the crystal. So what am I? He asked. Zia looked up at him. Her eyes soft now. You are a key, she said, but also a weapon. Before he could respond, a loud thud echoed outside the cave. Not one footstep, but many. The hunter wasn't alone anymore. Zia stood weakly, weapon in hand. Rek picked up a sharp piece of her broken shippa. Jagged blade. He didn't feel like a soldier anymore. He felt like prey. But something inside him had changed. His skin tingled. His chest glowed faintly, just like Zi's. He looked at her and said, Then we fight. Zi smiled again. The same wild smile from their first meeting. But this time, it wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Asterisk. The cave was dark, but alive. Blue light pulsed through the walls like veins, and the air felt thick. Zai stood near the back, her hand resting on the living weapon she always kept close. Rek sat near the edge, listening to the growls and footsteps outside. The hunters were still out there, but for now, they waited, watching the cave from the trees. Rek had never been so close to death, but somehow he felt calm. Something inside him had shifted, like a door had opened. He watched Zai carefully. She was not just a warrior, not just a fighter. She was guarding something, not just the crystal, not just the shipwreck, but something else. Zai looked up at him with unreadable eyes, then slowly pulled her strange weapon from her back. It moved when she touched it, like it was breathing. Part of it looked like bone, but the surface rippled like water under skin. It opened its sharp metal mouth, then closed again. Rick stepped back, uneasy. What is that thing? He asked. Zia looked at the weapon with quiet sadness. She's called Mari, she said. She's not made, she is born. Born, Rek repeated. Confused, Zia nodded, then sat cross-legged and placed the weapon on the ground. She chose me, she said. When I was 12, Mari, the living weapon, was not a tool. She was a creature, created in labs and trained in war. But she had a heart, a mind, and instincts. She could feel anger, fear, pain, just like a human. And now, ZA said softly, she feels you. Rek frowned. Me, the weapon opened again, turning its small head toward Rek. It growled not in warning, but in curiosity, it crawled. Slowly toward him, as if sniffing the air, Rek stood still, unsure what to do. Then Mary touched his leg with a soft edge, and something inside Rek's chest lit up. He gasped, grabbing his ribs. ZA didn't move. Just watched, the weapon backed away slowly, then folded itself up like a sleeping animal. Rek dropped to one knee, breathing hard. What just happened? He asked. ZA walked over and placed her hand on his shoulder. She accepted you, she said. Mari never accepts outsiders. Rek looked at the sleeping weapon. Why me? He whispered. ZA's eyes glowed faintly. Because you are not just man. She said, you are part of us. Rek tried to speak but stopped. Because deep down, he already knew. His dreams had changed. His blood felt different. And the glowing symbols in the cave, he could almost read them now. ZA stood, her body still weak but her spirit burning bright. We have one day, she said. Then they will come. Rek looked at her, confused. Who? She didn't answer, not with words. Instead, she walked to the back wall of the cave and touched a glowing symbol. The wall shifted open, revealing something hidden, a second chamber, filled with weapons, crystals, and a floating object wrapped in chains of light. ZA stepped aside and nodded toward it. That, she said, is what they came for. Rek stared at it, eyes wide. It looked like a heart beating. Glowing, alive. But what is it? He asked. ZA took a deep breath. The seed of war, she said. If it bonds with the wrong hands, it can destroy planets. Rek took a step back. You were hiding this the whole time, he asked. ZA looked at him, not angry but firm. I was protecting you, she said. You are the only one who can. Hold it, Rek shook his head. I didn't ask for this. No, ZA said, walking closer. But it chose you. Then they both turned. Outside the cave, the forest was no longer silent. The hunters were no longer waiting. They were coming. All of them. The final hunt had begun. The forest burned behind them. Smoke rose into the sky, and the air shook with the sound of engines. Above the trees, black drones circled like vultures. They weren't alien, they were human, and they weren't here for ZAI. They were here for Rek, ZAI. Grabbed his arm and pulled him deeper into the cave. Her voice was sharp, almost panicked. They found you, she said. Not me, you. Rek was still trying to understand. The seed of war, the living weapon, the glowing cave now drones from Earth. Why would humans want me? He asked. I'm nobody. ZA stopped walking, turned and stared straight into his eyes. No, she said. You are not nobody, then. She reached into her armor and pulled out a small glass needle. Before Rek could react, she stabbed it into his neck. He gasped, stumbled back. But then, everything froze. His breath stopped. Time slowed. Then the world around him vanished. He stood inside a memory, not his own, but deep, hidden inside his blood. He saw a boy floating inside a lab tank. Doctors stood outside, their faces hidden behind glass. Words echoed in the air. Hybrid Project X9. Human Tylari gene match stable. Subject has signal signature. Rek realized the boy was him. He wasn't. Born in a hospital, he was grown, tested, modified. He saw flashes of his childhood. All the things that never made sense. How he healed faster than others. How machines sometimes reacted to him. How he always felt like a stranger among people. And now he knew why. He wasn't just human. He was part Talari Zi's species, the memory. Collapsed, Rek fell to his knees back in the cave, breathing hard. He looked at ZA, wide-eyed, shaking. You knew, he said. ZA didn't deny it. I felt it the moment I touched you. She said, you carry our signal. But why didn't you tell me? He asked. Because you had to see it, she said. Your blood remembers what your mind forgot. Suddenly, the cave ceiling shook. Rocks fell, the walls trembled. From the entrance, human soldiers in black armor marched in, guns raised. ZA stepped in front of Rek, weapon drawn, target acquired. A voice said, "Do not harm the girl, focus on the male." Rek stood slowly, blood still buzzing from the truth. "I'm not going with you," he said. One soldier raised his gun. But before he could fire, ZAI moved. She was lightning fast. Precise, brutal, she disarmed one, kicked another into the wall, and spun toward the third, only to be blasted back by a shock round. She hit the ground, hard, unmoving. Rain to Wek ran to her, shielding her body. Something snapped inside him. The glow in his chest spread to his hands, his eyes, his skin. The weapons the soldiers held began to glitch, spark, fail. The air around Rek pulsed with energy. A symbol appeared on his forehead, same as the one in ZA's armor. The soldiers froze, unsure what to do. Then Rek spoke, but his voice was not his own. It was deep, layered, filled with something ancient. "You created me," he said, "but you cannot control me." The drones above exploded in the sky without warning. The soldiers dropped their weapons and ran. Silence returned to the cave. Rek collapsed beside ZAI, his body smoking, hands shaking. She opened her eyes slowly. "What did you do?" she whispered. Rek looked at her with fear and wonder. "I think," he said, "I just became who I really am." Asterisk. The stars were no longer quiet above the jungle. The night sky flickered with strange red lines, lines that weren't stars, weren't clouds. They were tracking signals, moving fast. Something big was coming. In the cave, Rek stood over the seat of war, still pulsing with light. He could feel it now, not just see it, but feel it. It spoke to him without words, pulling on something deep inside his bones. ZA knelt beside her weapon, whispering commands in her language. She looked weak, but focused, her hands moving across a floating screen made of light. Rek turned toward her. "That thing," he said, pointing to the seed. "Can it save us?" ZAI didn't look up. "No," she said. "But it can send a message." Rek frowned. "To your people," she nodded. "To anyone still alive." She pressed her palm to the wall, and a hidden panel opened, revealing a strange device. It looked like a flower made of glass and metal, covered in alien runes. "The beacon," she whispered, "but it only works once." Rek stepped closer. "What happens when we use it?" he asked. ZA looked at him, her expression heavy. "They find us," she said, "and so do the ones hunting us." It was a final call, a flare in the dark. Her people might come, but so would the enemy. Rek stared at the beacon, then at the jungle outside, where shadows moved in silence. The hunters were circling again, and the humans wouldn't be far behind. "Then what are we waiting for?" he asked. ZAI didn't move. Instead, she pointed to the seat of war. "It needs a signal carrier to activate," she said, "and I can't." "Not anymore." Rek stepped back, heart pounding. "You mean me?" ZAI nodded. "You were made for this," she said. "Your body is the bridge between my world and yours." Rek looked at his hands, still glowing faintly. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a mistake, a weapon born from two worlds he didn't belong to. "But what if I do it wrong?" he asked. "What if I destroy everything?" ZA placed her hand on his chest. "You won't," she said, "because I'll be with you." Together, they approached the beacon. Rek placed the seat of war into its center, and the device opened like a living eye. Light poured out in every direction. ZA began to chant in her native tongue, guiding the energy, holding the flow. Rek screamed. The power was burning through him. Images flooded his mind. He saw other worlds, broken ships, lost warriors across space. He felt their memories, their pain, their last hopes. Then he felt seen. A presence reached back, across the stars. Not a machine, not an enemy, but a signal, a voice that said only one word. "Child." The beacon's light grew brighter, shaking the earth beneath them. ZA's knees buckled, and Rek caught her before she fell. It worked, she whispered. They heard us. But outside, the jungle exploded in flames. The enemy had arrived, not soldiers, not drones, but something worse. A massive ship, dark and silent, appeared above the trees, its shape like a floating beast. From its belly, creatures dropped twisted, clawed, and built for killing. Rek pulled Za behind him, the seed still glowing in his hand. What now? He asked. Za looked up at him, her voice shaking but her eyes strong. Now we fight, she said, and we hold them until my people come. Rek gripped the weapon tight. I hope they're fast, he said. Za smiled faintly. They're Tilari, she said. They don't run from war. And as the first creature landed in front of them, growling, snarling, hungry, Rek stepped forward, and the seed in his hand flared like a sun. The jungle was on fire. Smoke twisted into the sky like black roots, choking the stars above. The enemy dropped from their ship, one by one, creatures of metal, bone, and shadow. They moved like insects, fast and many, crawling over the trees and ground. And yet, at the mouth of the glowing cave, two stood against them, just two. Rek, the hybrid no longer afraid of what he was, and Za, the warrior girl who had nothing left to run from. Behind them, the beacon still pulsed, and the seed of war glowed brighter with every breath Rek took. Za raised her living weapon, Mari, who hissed in hunger, ready to fight. Rek closed his eyes and let the energy rise inside him. The glow in his veins became fire. He stepped forward, slowly, as if walking into a storm. Then the creatures attacked. The first wave came fast, leaping from trees with claws out and teeth bared. Za met them head on, her blades singing through the air like lightning. Rek lifted his hand. Energy shot out like a wave, tearing the ground, throwing bodies back like leaves in wind. He wasn't thinking anymore. He was moving, reacting, becoming. The battle raged through the jungle, but no matter how many they cut down, more came. Za was bleeding, her armor cracked, but she didn't fall. Rek's hands shook, light flickering, power breaking through his control. Then he heard it, a sound above, like thunder but deeper. A second ship, this one bright, alive, sharp as crystal and burning gold. Za looked up, and her eyes filled with tears. They came, she whispered. Tilari warship broke through the clouds, its hull alive with glowing tattoos of light, and from it, warriors dropped like comet stall, fierce, marked like Zai. They landed with blades drawn and war cries in their voices. The tide turned. The enemy screamed and scattered, but it was too late. The Tilari were here. Za collapsed, her strength finally gone. Rek caught her, his hands still glowing. Stay with me, he said. It's over. Za smiled weakly. Not yet. She looked at the beacon, now cracked, sparking, losing control. If it breaks now, the seed will explode, she said, and everything will burn. Rek looked at it, then at her. You said I was the bridge, he said. Can I shut it down? Zai nodded slowly. But only if you leave this body, she said. Only if you cross fully into our world. Rek was silent. If he did this, he would never be the same again. Not fully human, not fully Tilari. Something else, something new. He looked at Earth, now hidden behind smoke and shadow. Then he looked at her, the girl who found him, saved him, changed him. I never belonged there anyway, he whispered. Then he walked into the beacon. The seed pulsed once, twice, then released a final surge of light. Everything went white when the light faded. The jungle was quiet again. Za opened her eyes, but Rek was gone. Only the seed remained, now dark and silent. No longer dangerous, the Tilari leader stood beside her. He passed the test, the leader said. He is now with us, but beyond form. Za nodded, her heart heavy but full. She looked up at the stars, and in that endless sky for a second, she saw him, not a man, not a warrior, but a being of light, moving freely between worlds, war or peace. Rek chose both. He became the answer, the bridge. Between species, between past and future, between survival and hope. And somewhere, in the quiet of space, he still watches,